Okay, now we're going to look at Chapter 9, Part 2. These are just some review things to go over. So I'm going to go over the learning outcomes and then the headings for each of these sections. We're looking in this section at the health consequences of dehydration, 4 minerals that are function as electrolytes, how these electrolytes control balance and acid, base, and nerve impulse, and then some dietary sources of these electrolytes. So these are minerals. So basically we talked about minerals earlier in the chapter. So we're going to look at the electrolytes, which are minerals. So here we're seeing that there is an electrochemical gradient and there's also an action potential. So what gives another thing that's important about electrolytes besides maintaining our fluid balance is it's a way it's like electrical impulse. It's how we feel something hot, how we feel something cold. It's how things travel, senses travel from our brain back to our body to tell us to move quickly and make changes so that we don't get hurt. So here we have this electrolyte controlling nerve impulse conduction. So it is basically an electrical impulse. And it happens, interestingly enough, by just movement of sodium, potassium in and out of a cell very, very, very quickly. So in a resting state, you'll have this movement you just have this normal weight status of electrolytes, and you have these little receptors you see along the membrane. But as an action potential in your nerve occurs, so this is a small part of your nerve, this sodium can move in quickly. As the sodium moves in, the potassium is pumped out, and so you have this movement of sodium, potassium in and out, and it just happens so quickly that it causes an impulse, a movement of positive and negative charges right through your nerve, and that's what quickly responds to any kind of danger or any kind of feeling at all. So that's all from these electrolytes of sodium and potassium. Because the membranes can pump sodium and potassium in and out of these cells, so we were talking about this in the last video, that sodium is generally outside and potassium's inside. So by moving potassium out, sodium in, and then potassium back out, sodium in, or sodium back out, then we have this charge. So it's a very quick polarization. Inside the cell is always a slight negative charge, and then the difference of the charge causes this impulse transmission. So it's basically, that's another function of electrolytes in our body. And another thing that goes on then is we're just looking at the action potential. So you can watch, if you want to watch this little video, it just shows it in action. And then this too will show how in a muscle we have a contraction. So not just by our feelings and our nerves, but our muscles also have an action potential. So these different cells, the myelin and the actin, this calcium is electrolyte, moves across the synapse, excites these muscle proteins so they contract and relax. So even just your movement of your body and your muscle movement is an action potential caused by calcium moving in quickly inside these cells. So that's quite an interesting function of electrolytes. The next section is talking about how the electrolytes help maintain acid and base balance. So we can measure the pH of a solution. So we know that our stomach is a very low pH, it's acidic. There's certain conditions can lead to what's called acidosis, a lot of acid buildup. And there's also some function of sodium in our acid and base balance, and phosphorus. So let's look at those. So here we see that electrolytes can maintain the pH balance because it's always the concentration of hydrogen ions that give us either more acid or more base. So the more hydrogen, the more acid it is. So acids are, again, just like water, acids are produced by metabolism, our normal metabolism. We get a lot of buildup of hydrogen molecules, and that makes us very acidic. But there's other things that contribute, an OH, which could make things more basic. So our normal pH is 7.4. So we have to neutralize our acids. So if we have too much acid, called acidosis, that's when our pH is maybe 7 to 7.3. It's very slightly below the 7.4, but just that's enough to cause these kind of reactions of disorientation. And it can occur during starvation or if you're diabetic that's not taking insulin, or if you just had a sickness, a diarrhea, or if you have some breathing problems and you have too much carbon dioxide expressed and not enough oxygen, that can cause it. Or you can have alkalosis, which is too much alkaline. Now you've gotten your pH above the 7.4, which is neutral. And this can also cause dizziness and agitation. This would be caused by breathing off too much oxygen, which could occur if you're going up on a mountain, a very tall, high mountain like the Rocky Mountains, and you feel altitude sickness. Also from vomiting, you could become too alkaline. So there's a lot of conditions that can affect our pH, and that's why the electrolytes are there to balance out, to make sure they act like buffers, just like we talked about protein being a buffer. Electrolytes are buffers, and they help contribute hydrogen as needed to keep the pH regulated. So that's another function of acid and base. Here you can see that other little schematic. So if you have an illness that causes an extracellular water loss, so here's inside your cell again. Some of the water has come out of the cell, and then the concentration in the extracellular becomes higher, more electrolytes are there. So the intracellular water moves to the extracellular space to balance the electrolyte concentration. So you have movement of water, just like we talked about before, and that causes electrical impulse. That could affect the muscle. So if you happen to have a loss of potassium, you can have a heart attack because the muscle also needs these impulses to be contracting. And the heart is a muscle we don't think of because it's involuntary. So that's about that section. And the last sections just talk about the actual electrolytes. So we have sodium. Where do we find sodium? Which organ regulates the amount of sodium? We already talked about that with the kidney. And then there's what kind of changes might you make to make sure you don't get too much or too little. So sodium, potassium, and chloride, those are 3 electrolytes, and we need about 1.5, that's 1.5 grams. That's the lowest you would want. If you were looking to label, the daily value is 2.4. So that's for a healthy person, 2.4. But if you have high blood pressure, you might want to go down to 1.5 grams a day. Potassium is even really much higher, 4.7 grams, and chloride is about the same as salt because sodium and chloride is table salt. So potassium is something that's very important too to maintain our blood pressure. We need double the amount of potassium as we do sodium, and many of us don't get that amount. So for sodium, then the question was, whether it's functions besides just flavoring food, it also helps with our fluid balance, our nerve conduction, nerve impulse conduction, and it helps with absorption of certain nutrients. If we have a deficiency, we might have cramping or vomiting or dizziness. So we need, it's kind of like that. On our last slide, we talked about hyponatremia, having too little sodium, and it can cause dizziness and vomiting. So we have to make sure we don't get too low in sodium. And then we need to get, and of course, getting enough sodium. So how much do we need? We just talked about that. The average American gets about 2,300 to 47. That's pretty high. It just looks at different countries and where the lowest and highest sodium intake is around the world. So we want to make sure we know where sodium is. And it's usually in packaged, processed, fast food, canned foods, and ready prepared food. So if we want to lower our sodium content, we just eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, meats, just plain meats, unprocessed foods. So do your own cooking where you can determine how much sodium, and then watching the clues on the labels. So that's for sodium, and most of our sodium is from processed foods. So that's, if we cut out processed foods, we cut down our sodium content. Another potassium, another nutrient. What are the functions of potassium? Where is it? Really, where is it in our diet? Well, potassium helps again to maintain water balance. It helps the nerves transmission, as we mentioned, because it's moving in and out of the cell against the sodium, and it can also help lower blood pressure. So one of the things that is discovering is not only should you, if you had high blood pressure, not only should you reduce sodium, but you should increase potassium because so many people are low on potassium and we need so much, 4,700 milligrams. The average intake is half of that. So we take twice as much sodium and half as much potassium on the average. So we need to try to include a lot of fruits and vegetables. That's the main source of potassium. And by processing food, we're decreasing our potassium. So again, processed foods is high sodium, low potassium, exactly what we don't want. So we need to eat a lot of foods that are unprocessed, dry beans, meats, whole grains. I mean, just basically all the foods you would see in the outskirts of a grocery store. If you stay away from the middle aisles of the grocery store, you'll be eating the foods that are high in potassium. And then the last point here is there's a lot more about potassium you could look at, just knowing the dangers of having too much. Like here's if you have too little or too much. Here's too low potassium. Hypo means low. Kalemia means potassium. K for potassium. So this you can have too little, and that can cause cramps and confusion. And you can often be in this situation if you have too few calories or not enough fruits and vegetables, for example, or just dehydration. It's pretty important that we get enough of each of these electrolytes. And the last electrolyte is chloride. The two functions of chloride we often hear about is the hydrochloride, hydrochloric acid in our stomach, and also related to blood pressure. So the functions of stomach acid, and it also helps with the white blood cells attacking foreign cells. So this is just a picture of how it moves in and out of the cell also to increase the different levels as needed for digestion. We can have a deficiency in chloride if we have a lot of vomiting or have had the flu, so that could change our acid-base balance by just losing a lot of fluids in an illness. So you're getting chloride with table salt. Basically, it's in chlorinated water, table salt, and again in fruits and vegetables. Like you think of celery having a lot of sodium and potassium chloride. Okay, so the last thing then is this section about high blood pressure. So many Americans have problems with hypertension. So how do we alleviate that? Again, we already mentioned we want to try to increase potassium and decrease sodium, or keep a balance. And it's considered a silent disease because hypertension doesn't really say anything. It doesn't really call out until it's almost too late. So it's important to control that because it's hard on your kidneys, it's hard on your heart, it's hard on your blood vessels. If you have high blood pressure, it causes hardening of the arteries. It contributes to that. It also contributes to, can be caused by these things, inactivity, extra alcohol. As you get older, you tend to have harder problems with your blood pressure. Taking too much sodium. So the way we control that is we can just make sure we know what our blood pressure is. You can have it read every so often. The optimal 120 over 80. They have some new recommendations now that high blood pressure is actually anything up to 130, so above 130. So you want to keep it below 130 over 90. So those are important things to make sure that we are getting a diet that has all these minerals in it, so that we can be maintained. And one of the best diets have been found is called a DASH diet, and it's the dietary approach to stop hypertension. That's what DASH stands for, DASH. So this diet is high in calcium, potassium, and magnesium, and low in salt. And that means it's very high in fruits and vegetables. So it's many, many servings of fruits and vegetables every day, a lot of grains, and not so much in meats, and very few processed foods. So that's a way you can go if you're trying to lower your blood pressure. That ends the important points of Chapter 9. Thank you very much.